Just moving on, Lee. I'm just going to go with who's your third pick?
My third pick is the one that you got most excited about when I sent my list across. So
Oh yes, of course it
I
is.
must
Yes,
be on to a
I
winner
remember
here.
now.
So we're going to Serie B in Italy, and it's Samuele Ricci, the 19-year-old central midfielder at Empoli. Um, he's such a lovely player, and I've always had a soft spot for Empoli. My wife and I have been to Florence quite a few times, and yes, I've been to Fiorentina game, but I've also been to a couple of Empoli games, and I love the club and the stadium and kind of the edginess around the club a little bit. And again, like so many of the clubs that we are talking about, Empoli have got a real habit of developing these young players. Ismail Benacer, who's now at Milan, obviously played at Empoli, amongst others, and they seem to love these technical central midfielders. He's somebody who has been capped by the Italy under-21 squad. He's not in the European Championships, much to my dismay when I saw the squad, because I think he would really add something to the Italy side that I saw play yesterday. And obviously, they've now got a bit of an issue with Tonali having been sent off in that match and being suspended for a period of time. But Ricci is capable of playing as a 6 or an 8. He is so alike a lot of young Italian players. You see, when you watch Italy play at the national level, at the European Championships, the World Under 20 Cup, the Olympics, whatever underage competition it is, they're always full of players who are tactically and technically extremely well coached. So they're all comfortable receiving the ball, they're all capable of slotting and rotating in and out of different positions, they're all capable of finding the next right pass, if you like. They don't always have that level of creativity and ingeniousness, if you like, that sometimes teams need to have. They miss a little bit of the creative flair, if you like, and that's why players that come through Italy, like Lorenzo Insigne, for example, that's why they're so important to the Italian national side. And Ricci has a little bit of that creativity in him. He's extremely capable around the final third and finding little angles and pockets to receive the ball. He plays intelligent passes. He's capable of breaking the defensive line with a pass. He quite likes the no-look pass to the player coming round his blind side, which I always like to see in young players, that little bit of creativity and willingness to take a chance. But he's also quite combative. He's not somebody who gets pushed off the ball easily. He likes to stand his ground in midfield. He's capable of making a challenge. He's capable of pushing defenders off the ball to win the ball back, and he presses and chases the ball really well out of possession. I think I've already seen links to bigger clubs in Serie A. Fiorentina have been linked for quite a while, and that's quite normal for youngsters from Empoli, because for those that don't know, Empoli is a small city on the outskirts of Florence, so it's not difficult for Fiorentina to get scouts out, and they'll know all the players in the Empoli youth system anyway. But he was also quite strongly linked to Milan before they signed Sandro Tonali, and I read a couple of articles saying that if Tonali falls through for any reason, then Ricci would be the correct choice, because he's a young midfielder who has the qualities that Milan were looking for. Um, I know, Joe, that you're a fan of him. What do you make of him?
Yeah, Richie is. I mean, I'm disappointed that he won't be at the under 21 Euros because there's been an outbreak of COVID cases at Empoli, so
Yeah.
that's kind of ruled him out there. It's not as though he wouldn't be getting called up, and to be honest, I don't think it would be too long if he were playing at this level in Serie A, continuing the same consistent level of performance. I wouldn't say it would be too long until he was sort of in the discussion for the senior team. But I just think he's a fantastic player in that he's typically a central midfielder, but very much plays on the left side of this very Italian 4-3-1-2 within the three. And he's very, very comfortable, very adept at taking up those wide spaces with his back to the touchline. As with the no look passes, as you said, he just has he just oozes. It seems to ooze confidence a bit, and it's. I very much like that style of footballer who is versatile enough that they can play in multiple positions within a system, because it means that you're so tactically flexible. Having a player who isn't regimented, who isn't, going to be completely ineffectual if you ask them to actually migrate into spaces elsewhere on the pitch, is so useful for teams, because you can. It's very much the same in players who are central midfielders who can drop into the fullback space. who are very comfortable. When their wing backs push on, that central midfielders drop into those right hand and left hand half spaces, sort of in the around the centre circle. I think Ricci is sort of the inverse of that, in that he's not dropping into the left back space. He's sort of pushing up into the left midfielder's left wing space, which I very much like. And to be fair, when I was watching Empoli, when I was watching Ricci before this, one thing I did want to get from sort of your insight was the dynamics of how that works. How does that formation? How does a player of that ilk? How does it? What are the dynamics of a 4-3-1-2 with a player like that, like Ricci in this team?
I think that in the 4-3-1-2, you're right, the wide midfielders, they kind of have to be multifunctional, because you have the 10, you have the two strikers, and they're kind of the fixed positions within the team. And beyond that, you'll have the central midfielder in the 3, who will act more as the 6 and won't really move very far. So you have two pivots, and that you have the central midfielder in the 3, and you have the 10. So they kind of stay central, and they kind of always act, and the rest of the players move around them. So to play in the wide areas and the wide midfield in the 4-3-1-2, it's narrow when you look at it in the pitch, because he is a central midfielder, not a left-sided winger. But there is an emphasis on the players in those areas being able to move forward into half spaces, especially, and kind of combine with the fullback as they move forward, because the fullback moves forward to provide the width, and the left-sided central midfielder has to be the one in the half space to provide the connection between that and the 10 and the striker. But if the fullback doesn't get forward quickly enough, or is in transition, you'll find the left-sided central midfielder, so Ricci for Empoli, he will move outside to collect the ball wide, and then he'll either hold the ball up, play combination play, and then gradually move back inside as the fullback catches that play. So I think it goes down again to what I talked about with young players in the Italian setup, that they're so well coached from a tactical perspective, that they're taught system of play. They're taught that from a very young age, and they play in different formations. They play in diamonds. They play in 4-4-2s and 4-3-2s and 3-5-2s and all these different things. And players are taught what pictures to look for in terms of where they should be on the pitch at any given time. And when you see a player break through that has that tactical versatility, it becomes really interesting, because he combines that with the technical ability. That you're right, he can receive the ball on the touchline at times and then play combinations to allow the attack to catch up. He can play further forward in the half space and affect the game from there. But defensively, he also knows exactly what his position is in the 4-3-1-2. So it becomes more narrow then, and the fullback's kind of isolated against the opposition winger, and the left-sided central midfielder will come across as the opposition fullback, then looks to join in to try to overload. But otherwise, he will stay centrally and try to break passing lanes for the opposition. So there's a lot going on for players in that position, and it is typically Italian, because you don't see it used in a lot of different places, a lot of other countries. But at the same time, I think that the Italian game is almost one of the most dynamic and flexible from a tactical perspective. You can watch a slate of Italian games if you want to the weekend, and you'll see 3-5-2, 4-3-3, 4-4-2, 4-3-1-2. You'll see diamonds with different configurations, and that's what makes the Italian game so interesting for me. So I think that's probably quite part of the reason that Ricci is somebody who has been looked at so closely, I think, by Serie A sides. I don't think he's somebody who's likely to move abroad. You don't often see young Italian players of this mould moving to foreign countries. They kind of tend to stay in Italy. It's more likely that he will move to a bigger club. I would really like personally to see him at an Atalanta, where I think his technical ability in the midfield would be really important.
It's very, very, very interesting that you mentioned Atalanta right at the end there, because throughout that, the image that it was evoking in my head was just the success of Atalanta has been just this positional and tactical flexibility, and the tactical intelligence that all of these, middle of the road players at Atalanta, because let's face it, that's what they had been for the vast majority of their
Yeah,
career before they were corralled into Giampiero Gasparini's system. Very middle of the road players, just the tactical intelligence that they all play. They all fill in each other's positions when they're out of when they go forward with the ball, in and out of possession. It's like it's regimented, but it's regimented in fluidity, in the sense that they know the role. Essentially, football is a game of patterns. They know where to be and how to position themselves when certain patterns show themselves. And I think that is exactly what you're saying, on the sense that young Italian players are coached in the sort of in tactical speak, so to speak, because they very much know how to adapt themselves to different tactical situations, and Ricci, certainly in Serie B, is kind of one of the perfect examples of that.